The WVU farm system is managed by the College of Agriculture, or the Davis College of Agriculture at WVU. In Morgantown, we have 3 properties where livestock and animal science research goes on. The first one we're going to start with is the agronomy farm, located towards the other side of town. It's a landlocked farm comprised of approximately 200 acres. Land is available for agronomic research. We've recently renovated facilities to house sheep, and there can certainly be cattle studies out here. There are 2 other farms in Morgantown. The livestock or Stewartstown farm, which is our main hub farm in Morgantown, where a lot of teaching and research activities go on. And also the organic farm, which is a certified organic farm, housing both livestock and crop studies. Newly renovated facilities at the agronomy farm allow for housing of additional sheep for projects. We currently have 70 Texel ewes and are running projects with parasite resistance and animal breeding with both Texel and Polypay sheep at this facility. At the agronomy farm, there's approximately 40 acres of grazed or a fenced-in grazing area to permit and allow for multiple projects using either sheep or cattle for any kind of grazing studies that you would be interested in. This is the WVU Animal Science Farm. Encompassing about 408 acres, this farm houses beef cattle, dairy research, chicken feed manufacture studies, and work being done with small ruminants. This farm is used not only by faculty in animal sciences, but also plant sciences, some work done with forestry, and also others in engineering. At the top of the farm is our office complex where classroom teaching is done. There's a poultry processing facility within here and also houses our veterinary staff. Adjacent to that farm building, or that farm office complex, is the remnants of our dairy operation in terms of our milking herd, which was recently dispersed. However, there's a large class that uses dairy heifers called dairy heifer management that many of the students enjoy, and enrollment tends to be high in both spring and fall terms. So what we do now with the dairy facility is focus on dairy heifer management. What you see in this facility is our dairy heifer management barn. This facility is used for raising heifers. There's a lot of opportunity for expansion of that work. There's a dairy farm up in Pennsylvania that we've been acquiring dairy heifer calves from for quite some time, and have been working with that farm closely with other faculty members and doing some applied dairy research. On the back side of the dairy heifer barn, you can see that there's multiple acres of land that's available for a variety of different projects. Currently, most of this land is used for forage production for either beef cattle, sheep, or any of the dairy heifers that require additional feed resources. But there's quite a bit of land that's available for a multitude of different projects. Renovated in 2018, this is the WVU feed mill. Feed research study and feed manufacture work by Dr. Moritz's lab focuses on pellet integrity, and he can talk a little bit more about that. But there's a state-of-the-art pellet mill that facilitates formulation of different diets and different pellet characteristics. This facility was upgraded recently and also contains a storage area for a variety of different resources that's just adjacent to the feed mill. On the outside of the mill are commodity bins and large bulk bins to bring in feed resources for any of these projects that you might be interested in. Right next to the feed mill are 2 chicken houses that are used for a variety of different poultry research. Barns on this side house some egg-laying birds as well as some broilers. And over here we have another building that's dedicated for poultry research as well. So there's a lot of facility that can be adapted and used for a variety of different projects involving chickens. Right next to our chicken barns is a facility that was renovated over the last few years to house dog behavior. So there's a lot of work being done with training service dogs in this facility as well. Just to give you a view from the top of the hill at the Morgantown, or at the Stewartstown farm in Morgantown, you can see the amount of housing that surrounds our precious farm resource, and it's always a concern of ours about when and if we're going to be able to keep doing research out here. But research productivity and use of the farm is really going to drive a lot of those questions, in our ability to continue recruiting students and teaching students. Providing hands-on experiences will be a keystone in keeping this farm available for use through the university. As we move back over to the left, you'll see a series of barns that we'll visit next. Starting right here in front of us, this is the upper sheep barn or upper sheep facility, and we'll tour that. Go down to these lower units that house both beef cattle, and sheep. And then finally, there's a kind of barn in the background there that is the food animal research facility, and we'll take a tour of the outside of that. This barn is referred to as the upper sheep barn. At 180 feet in length, this barn can house up to 200 to 300 mature ewes. What we have going on in here now is a goat performance test, particularly focused on Kiko goats. But this barn is fully modular, meaning that you can set up pens for a variety of different studies with both feed resources, feed access, and internet capability within the facility. Originally intended as a swine housing unit and swine research facility, this hoop barn structure has been repurposed to house small ruminants. You can see this facility has a floor drain, open, a lot of natural light coming through the fabric tarp that's on the top, and 2 doors on the end. This very little research recently has gone into this barn. Dr. Wilson in the past has done some swine research, but since that point we haven't done much with this other than using this facility as a storage unit. Directly adjacent to that barn is swine barn is what we call the lower sheep barn. This barn houses our Suffolk ewe flock, consisting of about 35 to 40 head of purebred Suffolk sheep used for a variety of research, largely with parasites as well as teaching. In the next room is a advanced handling facility for those sheep, and housing that leads directly out to pastures. You can see that there's a variety of small ruminant options at this university, but we'll also talk about some of the larger ruminants, some of the beef cattle opportunities as well. Down in this other complex is kind of what we call our lower beef complex. The barn that you're looking at now is a feedlot barn with 9 individualized pens. All pens have dividers that can be used to make pens larger so you can house more animals in there. We've done a lot of feeding research and a lot of feeding studies using beef cattle in this facility. And this is a nice confinement facility for a range of different projects feeding beef cattle. Adjacent to the feedlot barn is our cattle handling facility that uses more bud box type technology running into this handling system. Right next to the handling system are a series of palpation chutes that have been used for a variety of different reproductive research projects over the years, that are still available for use for a variety of different projects or anything that you might be interested in. All of these handling systems, the feedlot barn, and just on the other side of the handling system is our grow safe barn, all make one continuous unit. So moving animals from one barn to another is all housed within gates. On the back side of the handling unit is what we call our grow safe barn. At the front of each pen, which in this barn there's a total of 4 pens, there are places for 2 grow safe nodes per pen. We've been able to successfully adapt cattle grow safe bunks for use with small ruminants as well. We have weaned lambs that are over on the other side of the barn, but we've run performance tests with both sheep and goats using this GrowSafe technology, as well as various projects that have been run out of my lab that utilize that. The GrowSafe bunks are a tremendous resource. We've got a great relationship with the company itself, and have supported a lot of their development and have supported a lot of our research here. But we have the ability to install up to 8 individualized bunks in here, feeding different either heifers, steers, or any lambs or goats that we can bring through and adapt this barn to. So just outside of our beef complex is the last and final building that we'll review on this tour of the Stewartstown Road Farm. This is the Food Animal Research Facility, otherwise known as the FARF. This building was established to house surgery suites for a variety of different animal models. There at one time was some areas on this side of the building in the back that that housed areas to do some controlled feeding studies with beef cattle, but now largely is used by faculty at the health science portion of our university that's associated with the university hospital, that do a lot of neuroendocrinology research and also a lot of surgical techniques and those type of things. But this facility does house surgical suites. So if that's something that you're interested in or your research would require that, we do have a facility to support those needs. Where we're at now is the WVU Organic Farm. This is the main office and shop complex. On the top of the hill behind it, you'll see a cattle handling facility that links to an under-the-road passage to an area between this farm and the Stewartstown Road Farm called Bon Vista. That's about another 40 or 50 acres of grazing land that are used for maintaining our cattle or Hereford herd. As you can see over in that top area or that plateau there, that used to be the WVU dairy at one time before it burned down. That is all now grazing land on a road that we call the mile ground. It's just a mile of flat land, which is pretty rare in these parts. But there's a lot of opportunity for a variety of grazing studies at this facility. Both Dr. Moritz and myself have used this farm for a variety of study. Dr. Moritz doing some pasture poultry work, and me doing some different cultivars that have high tannins and parasitism in sheep. On the other side, there are some high tunnel buildings, and this is another facility that's out here. I want to take you to the top of the hill by the water towers for our next view of some other grazing land and grazing opportunities that are available at the organic farm. The organic farm at WVU encompasses about 150 acres of land that is mostly supports work done by researchers in plant and soil science. There's a community CSA that's involved in this farm, and there's other professors in plant and soil science that are doing some agronomic work and some work with controlling parasites in sheep as well. Now, as we rotate around to the right, you kind of get a view of Morgantown as we're coming through here, because you don't get the opportunity to see this particular town up close due to our interview schedule. But we do have 2 hospitals in this town, and as I rotate around further to the right, you'll see the silos that are at the Stewartstown Road Farm. The interesting thing to note here is that there are 3 farms in Morgantown that are all about 10 to a 15-minute drive away from the university when everything's in session and everything's normal. In the summertime and during a pandemic, you can get from the main building to the farms in about 5 to 10 minutes. So there's a ton of resources that are right here available in Morgantown to both do laboratory and field research that are all at your fingertips. So at this point, I'm going to move the video section into the lab and show you the building. The other thing I wanted to talk about were the 3 other outlying farms at WVU. There's one to the east of us in the eastern panhandle, that is the Wardensville Farm. That houses about 100 head of Angus, purebred Angus cattle, and also houses a grow safe facility in a very long, I think it's about a 300-foot barn that has grow safe capacity, and also is where our WVU bull performance test is housed twice a year. At that facility, they also have installed state-of-the-art grow-safe beef units that also do front-end weigh measuring and are doing a variety of field trials with that equipment. There's another outlying farm that's a little bit closer than Wardensville. So Wardensville is about a 2.5-hour drive away from us. I'm going to keep panning back and forth so at least you have some background as I'm talking. But Reedsville is about a 30 to 40-minute drive without any snow on the ground from Morgantown. That's an 1,800-acre facility that has a variety of opportunity and facility. That's it's now called the J.W. Ruby Memorial Farm. There's a state-of-the-art horse facility that was recently constructed at that location, as well as numerous paddocks for beef cattle grazing. There's about 100 head of Angus Hereford crossbred cows that are run out in that facility, or run out on that farm, and a variety of different faculty from all over the university use that facility for different research projects. So those are those two that are closest to us, and then Willow Bend's in the southern part of the state that houses about 50 head of Angus-oriented cows that are available to us. It's largely used for extension and outreach and demonstration projects. So now we're going to head into the building and show you the facilities that are on campus. This is the building for Agriculture Sciences. This is a new building that's just been put up in the last 4 or 5 years that houses offices, lab space, and classrooms for instruction within our college. Directly next to this building, or across this parking lot, is South Ag Sciences, and then across the road is the WVU greenhouse complex. So right here on campus, we've got a very large, state-of-the-art, brand new building with a multitude of laboratory facilities to meet all of your needs for your potential research. Continuing with our view of the building, this is the loading dock area. We're going to start at this point. And I know that's probably not the best place to start, but it's the easiest place for us to get into the building at this point with all of our pandemic concerns. Right across the street from the Ag Sciences building is Percival Hall, which houses the other part of our college, the Division of Forestry and Natural Resources. So I indicated our tour would start in the loading dock because I wanted to show you animal holding pens that are directly adjacent and connected to two hands-on laboratory facilities to do both anatomy and physiology lab teaching. If we go inside these doors here, this is the physiology teaching lab. So we have facilities within this room to do all sorts of animal physiology teaching. And then connected to this lab is a larger laboratory area that is the animal anatomy and parasitology labs. So we can use all of these benches, have updrafts. It's a highly ventilated area for a variety of different teaching opportunities. There are drop-down screens, a teaching control panel, and a microscope attached to the instructor station here. I'm going to next move you across the hall. I can just show you the outside doors to the meats lab facility. So this part of the hallway encompasses the meats lab, and behind and the entrance to the meats labs are through these bathroom areas. Inside the meats lab, while we don't have an abattoir, we have coolers and cutting facilities, as well as a classroom to do a variety of different teaching and meat cutting exercises. So one of the first lab suites that we're going to tour today is the rumen fermentation and profiling lab. This lab was set up decades ago by another faculty member and then ran by a staff member, which did a lot of rumen fermentation profiling. for a variety of different companies. That staff member has retired, and this lab is still available for utilization for that. You can notice that this is a huge lab space with multiple vents. In addition, there's a Keldol lab that's attached to this, and a lot of areas and a lot of possibilities and equipment and facility that's already in place to accomplish any animal nutrition work that any of you would be interested in. If we go back through here, hold on. So just this Keldol lab, and the lights won't turn on for me for some reason. This is protein quantification lab, and then right next to it are ashing and drying ovens, as well as ether extract setups. So we have laboratory facilities all dedicated for work in animal nutrition. Then through the next set of doors, give me a moment here and the lights will turn on. There we go. So this laboratory area that you see here is dedicated for work with Dr. Moritz and Dr. Kraus. There is an ample amount of lab space within our building, and the larger the footprint we put down on this lab space, the more likely we are to retain it over time. So all of these labs are on the first floor of the building. The ground floor actually meets the roadway on one side of the building. On the other side of the building, it comes to the third floor. So the first floor houses laboratories, some laboratory classrooms, as well as office areas on the other side of the hallway for faculty within our division. Okay, one more thing that I forgot to mention about facilities that are on the first floor, there's also a grinding room that's dedicated for feed grinding for a variety of different sampling needs. So this is the second floor. The second floor is primarily dedicated to the Division of Animal Nutritional Sciences. This foyer is very similar on each floor, where you'll have stairs that go up and down, bathrooms on either side of the stairwells, and then this kind of is the central area of the building to the right or to the left. So if we go down this hallway, there's a series of offices, and then the middle section is all laboratories. Likewise, if you go down this other hallway, there are offices, and then the central sections are laboratories. So we'll start there. So each academic unit has one of these floors and one of these office complex areas. Our division director's office, Dr. Schaefer, or Dr. Peter Schaefer, who's our interim division director from the Division of Resource Economics. He's our current division director, and his office is housed here. Our secretary, Kim Mauser, is here. And then there's a whole kitchen suite like this on each floor, as well as an adjacent mailroom. So these are all available for faculty and graduate students, where we have all of our office supplies within this area. So there's a nice kitchen area. These are replicated on each floor of the building. As we go down the hall, we're going to talk about some of the laboratory facilities that are available on the second floor. So the first lab that I'm going to show you is the Food Science Core facility. This is for researchers that are doing work in food science and human nutrition, primarily food science and bacteriology, microbiology work that is done within this. We've got some faculty that are doing work with food safety and have a lot of facility within here. You notice that there's a lot of built-in laminar flow hoods, and there is an abundance of chemical hoods that were put in with the building. So in this lab, there's a total of 4 chemical hoods that are available for use. But these facilities have been great for researchers doing work in the area of food science. Now, just down the hall to the right of this lab complex, every floor will have its own autoclave. And we'll look at those facilities now. So this is one of our first autoclave facilities that are here. You can see that we have a completely digital and self-loading, or not self-loading, but a easy to load autoclave that uses this contraption here. On the other side of this wall, there's a complete microbiology area and molecular genetics section that has its own autoclave and a embryo transfer and reproductive physiology laboratory there. As we move down further down the hall, each floor at the same location will have a purified water dispenser as well as an ice machine that's available for use for faculty across the college, or across the division anyway. I don't think my key works for this door, but we're going to try it. Negative. Okay. So this lab space that you're seeing in here is used primarily by Jambo Yao, who does work in molecular genetics and reproductive physiology. So these are fairly large lab complexes. Each one of them within these sections will also have areas for -8 dedicated circuits for -80 freezers, for chromatography refrigerators, and all of the labs have little side rooms that you can use for microscopy or various other technical needs that require their own space. The other interesting thing on this floor is we also have a laboratory classroom that's back on this wall where advanced biotechnology classes are taught in there that utilize a large amount of equipment, and there's a walk-in cooler and freezer on most of the floors going through the building. Now we're going to head to the other wing of the second floor and look at laboratories there. Before we get over to those other laboratories, I wanted to stop and show you one of the classrooms just to give you an idea of what these look like. All the classrooms are set up with a similar layout where you've got a main teaching stage, multiple opportunities for digital display, and teaching lecterns that are fully digital. So we've got login pads, availability to do projection from different from a variety of different sources. Additionally, each division was outfitted with conference rooms. So this is our main conference room. It's called the Kidder Room. Dr. Kidder donated money to the university upon his retirement in 1985 and still has this room named after him. You can see this is a fairly large conference room that has both internet capability, projection capability. We do a lot of graduate student defenses in those rooms, as well as faculty meetings, and that's where we would be meeting had you guys been able to come to the university. All right, so the next lab section that we're going to talk about is the physiology lab. The physiology lab houses individual laboratories for Dr. Taylor, Dr. Klandorf, and myself are housed within this facility. This laboratory is about 3,000 square feet with accessory side rooms for equipment storage, and there is also a walk-in cooler and freezer within this lab complex. As we move around this lab, you can see that there's a total of 6 chemical hoods within this lab. Then my students usually run this section or this half of the lab with a variety of different, we still have Christmas stuff up. So we have a variety of different equipment and supplies that are available for use across the division and across the college. One specific thing that we have, at least within my lab group, is more microscopy options, both inverted and upright, mechanical, and completely automated microscopes. One of the other facilities that we have within the college and within the university are shared research services. So over at Health Sciences, there is a laboratory core there that has a variety of different molecular equipment for cell separation, those type of things. But on our campus, on the Evansdale campus, we have a shared electron microscopy resource that my lab group has used fairly heavily. So this is a large lab facility. There's multiple side rooms, and there's a lot of different opportunity for expansion and and location of other faculty within this lab complex. So I'm not sure if your particular lab requirements or research requirements would use this, but we do have a radiation lab that is directly across the hall from the physiology lab. So there are scintillation counters that are in here, and we still do have some of those radiation facilities that are available if your particular laboratory requirements need that. So the rest of this floor is all office space. Most of our offices are about 100 square feet. They're 10 by 10. They're already outfitted with desks, chairs, bookshelves, and cabinets. You can see that the lights all turn on by themselves and are all automated. Now, before I was talking about how we're on Evansdale campus, and I wanted to detail some of the things about the university. So WVU is split up into 3 campuses. There's the downtown campus, the Evansdale campus, and health sciences. So as you can see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. We have this, it's called the Personal Rapid Transit System, or the PRT. It was developed in 1975. So it's going on about 44 years. And these little individualized carts transport students to the different campuses around. So right here, that's one of our dormitories or residence halls called Towers. And then right on the other side of Towers, where you can see the crane and boom, that is the hospital complex, which also houses health sciences and the health science campus. So the PRT that you see here connects all 3 campuses in a way for students and faculty and staff to get around Morgantown without the requirement of driving. This is the main foyer to the Agriculture Sciences building that comes out on the 3rd floor on the opposite side of the building. The building was dedicated and was finalized when we moved in here about 4 years ago in 2016. And it's still a very nice, very clean, very new building with a tremendous amount of resource. Now I'd like to head outside and show you some of the other surrounding buildings within the Evansdale campus. So coming directly out of the foyer of the Agriculture Science building, right across the parking lot is what we call South Ag Sciences. That's where many of our plant science colleagues within the Division of Plant Sciences are there, and there's a large lecture hall within that building. Then our white building that you see in this quad area is the library. There's also a food service area, and they're called Da Vinci's. That makes food access very available for students in this part of the campus. And then finally, kind of continuing the quad, is the new engineering building that was built just about a year before our building was completed. All of this area makes up the agriculture and engineering quad that they're trying to develop in all this green space in a very pretty area of campus. Then you can kind of get an idea of Morgantown. You see another large building down there that is the College of Physical Activity and Sports Science, what we call CPAS. That's their building down there. And then some of the areas on the Evansdale part of campus. I know this tour wasn't particularly ideal. However, I hope it was useful in giving you a sense of the facilities that are available at WVU. I think that one critical point that I would be remiss in leaving out is the extreme amount of facility that we have relative to the number of faculty that are using them. You saw all of the open lab space that is within the building. I think that there's a ton of opportunity to do a variety of different things. I always tell my students when they come here that the only thing that's limiting you is your own imagination. And really at WVU, I don't think that there's anything that has really limited me other than my own desire and will to get something done. Nobody's ever stopped me from doing anything. So I think it's one of those places that's really unique in terms of its ability to provide access and facility and space for researchers to be very successful. So at this point, I think we'll turn off the video, and you guys can ask any questions that you want about any facilities, resources, or any of the farm resources that are available at WVU.